The broadcast of the regular meeting of the Business Inspections, Housing and Zoning Committee will now begin.
Thank you. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Business Inspections, Housing and Zoning Committee for today, which is September 8th. I'm Lisa Goodman. I'm chair of the committee. As we begin, I'll note for the record that this meeting has remote participation from members of the City Council and city staff as authorized by Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021 due to the declared local public health emergency. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll so we can verify a quorum for this meeting.
Councilmember Reich?
Present.
Gordon?
Here.
Osman?
Present.
Ellison? Schrader?
Here.
Chair Goodman?
Present. Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. I want to take a moment to introduce a new member of our Business Inspections, Housing and Zoning Committee, Councilmember Jamal Osman. Welcome to the committee. We're very excited to have the opportunity to work with you, and I thank you for diving right in just a few days after you have been sworn in. Today's agenda is in front of us. We'll begin with the consent agenda, which includes items 6 through 24 on the printed agenda. Item number 6 are liquor license approvals, and item 7 are the gambling license approvals. Item number 8 are business license operating conditions for A1 hauling and roll-offs. Item number 9 is accepting a grant from the Met Council through their Livable Communities Demonstration Account program. Item 10 are guidelines for the Property Development Fund. Item number 11 is accepting grants from the DEED and Met Council's Tax-Based Revitalization Account Brownfield grants. Item number 12 is funding. This is issuing a $50,000 to the City of Lakes Community Land Trust. Item number 13 is property management of the Upper Harbor Terminal. This doesn't have anything to do with property management for the Upper Harbor Terminal project. This is to manage the site while we're working on the project. Item 14 is a rezoning at 1104 25th Avenue Southeast. Item 15 is a rezoning at 1108 25th Avenue Southeast. Item 16th is a rezoning at 927 Broadway Avenue. Item number 17 is the commemorative street name addition of George Perry Floyd Place at Chicago Avenue between 37th and 39th Street. The rest of the items are noticing public hearings for land sales at 3648 Columbus, 2034 James, 2038 James, 2028 James. Those are all being set for a public hearing on September 22nd. We'll also be setting a public hearing for a land sale development terms at Baldwin Square, 4041 Fremont Avenue North, and setting a public hearing for a commercial property advance notice ordinance, as well as item 24, which is referring to staff, the subject matter of an ordinance with regard to exterior shutters. With that, I'm going to move the consent agenda, items 6 through 24. Are there any comments or questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on items 6 through 24.
Councilmember Reich?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
Osman?
Aye.
Ellison?
Aye.
Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Goodman?
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
Now, those items are approved, and we will move on to the public hearing agenda, starting with item number 1, which is a land sale at 1512 23rd Street East to the American Indian Community Development Corporation. I'll ask staff to give a report.
Good afternoon, Councilmember Goodman and members of the committee. The first we have is 1512 23rd Street East. The sale through the side yard program. The policies for the program were established by the City Council on January 15th, 2016. Staff recommends the side yard sale of 1512 23rd Street East to the American Indian Community Development Corporation, or AICDC, for its appraised value of $2,300 subject to conditions. This property was acquired on December 18, 2000 from Hennepin County tax forfeited land. It's adjacent to another parcel owned by the purchaser at 1510 23rd Street East. And this is the only application that we received for this parcel. It's a substandard parcel at 24 feet by 133 feet, approximately 3,192 square feet. The purchaser intends to combine the unbuildable vacant land with their adjacent parcels at 1510 23rd, 2214 Bloomington, and 2214 Bloomington for a higher density affordable housing development project. The combined parcels will be approximately 18,455 square feet. Notification was provided previously to the Ventura Village neighborhood of the staff intent to sell the property for a combination with the adjacent property. I do believe that we did send notice out to the purchasers, but I'm not sure if they're able to be on today. With that, are there any questions for me?
Are there any questions for Mr. Ramadan on item number 1? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Ramadan, for your report. I'm going to proceed to open the public hearing and ask the clerk if there are any speakers in queue for this item.
There's one speaker signed up, Tom McGelveen.
That's great. If Tom is on the call, I would invite you to speak now, sir.
Here.
Mr. McLevin, are you on the line?
This is Tom McKelvin. I'm with the American Indian Community Development Corporation, and as Mr. Ramadan pointed out, we are looking forward to a future higher density development on the site, vertical mixed use, and appreciate your support. I'll stand for questions if there are any.
Thank you for your testimony, Tom, and thank you for being on the call today. I'll ask the clerk if there's anyone else in line on the public hearing.
No further speakers on item 1.
With no additional speakers, I will close the public hearing and call on Councilmember Schrader.
Thank you, Chair Goodman. I'd like to move the item for approval.
Item number 1 has been moved by Councilmember Schrader. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Reich,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Osman,
Aye.
Ellison,
Aye.
Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Goodman.
Aye.
There's 6 ayes.
That carries and that motion is approved. We'll move on then to land sale number 2, and I'll ask Mr. Ramadan to speak.
Again, Chair Goodman and members of the committee, this is 2803 Aldrich Avenue North. As this is a sale through Minneapolis Homes, the policies for the program were established by the City Council on December 11, 2015, and again on February 10, 2017. The staff recommends the sale of 2803 Aldrich Avenue North to Kurt Brecky for its appraised value of $5,400, subject conditions. This property was acquired on December 30, 2015 from Hennepin County tax forfeited land. On August 8, 2019, the city approved the sale of this property to Richard Ayuk, who failed to close. Staff has continuously marketed this property on the program website since its acquisition to a listserv of now over 3,000 people. This is the only application we received for this property. The purchaser intends to invest $628,277 to build a triplex with 1,175 finished square feet per unit. Each unit will have 3 bedrooms and 2 baths and 1 stall in a detached 3-car garage. The CPED's construction management staff reviewed the plans and estimates by the applicant and confirmed they are sufficient to meet the minimum new construction standards. Notification was provided to the Hawthorne Neighborhood Council on February 27, 2020, but the neighborhood board did not respond. We also notified Mr. Brecky that he could testify today. I'm not sure if he was able to get in on this call. But
Yes.
Are there any questions for me? Okay, perfect.
Are there any questions for Mr. Ramadan on his report on item number 2? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing on item number 2 and invite Mr. Brecky to speak. Mr. Brecky, I think you have to push star. Hi.
Hi, this is Kurt Brecky.
Did you want to testify? You
No, I
don't
do
have
not.
any comments?
No.
Okay. You want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
Well, what we're doing is building triplexes in the city of Minneapolis. The missing middle is what we're really keying in on is the 3-bedroom units, which are very hard to come by. And we think the size of these lots are ideal for our triplex plan, catering to the community that is desperately in need of 3-bedroom units. And hopefully our program works out well. We might find some larger plats of land and possibly even be able to offer 4-bedroom units, which I think are in dire need in the Minneapolis area. And we really look forward and do appreciate working with Minneapolis. I think it's going to be a good opportunity for all parties.
Thank you so much for your testimony and for being on the call today. I'll ask the clerk if there's anyone else lined up to speak on item number 2.
No further speakers on item 2.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, then I'll close the public hearing and call on Councilmember Ellison.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I would like to move approval of this item.
Approval has been made by Councilmember Ellison. Are there any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Reich,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Osman,
Aye.
Ellison,
Aye.
Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Goodman.
Aye,
There's 6 ayes.
that is approved unanimously by the committee. I'll ask Mr. Ramadan to please give the report on item number 3.
Chair Goodman, members of the committee, we have 1111 James Avenue North, the sale again through the Minneapolis Homes Program. Staff recommends the sale of 1111 James to Riverfront Development Partners, LLC, for its appraised value of $15,900, subject to conditions. Staff further recommends the approval of award of up to $20,000 in home buyer incentive funds to Riverfront Development's approved buyer, Fardosa Hassan. 1111 James was acquired on June 11, 2010 as part of the Lovell Square Limited Partnership foreclosure. On June 17, 2017, the city approved the sale of this property to A Vision LLC under the Minneapolis Homes Development Assistance. However, the developer decided not to proceed and resold the property back to the city. The city has continuously marketed this property on its website to now over 3,000 people. And again, this is the only application received. The purchaser intends to invest $300,000 to move an existing historic 2-story single-family home with 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms onto a new foundation that will have a 2-bedroom and 1-bathroom rental unit in the basement, creating a new 3,196 square foot duplex with a new detached 3-car garage, and sell this property to a pre-approved buyer who will be the owner occupant. CPED's construction management staff has reviewed the plans and estimates and confirmed they are sufficient to meet the minimum construction standards. Notification was provided to the Northside Residents Redevelopment Council on August 7th. The Neighborhood Executive Committee met on August the 10th, 2020, and notified the staff of their support for Riverfront Development Partners LLC proposal. The developer, Ian Alexander, was also notified, and I'm not sure if he is available for today. Are there any questions for me?
Are there any questions for Mr. Ramadan on item number 3? Seeing none, I am informed by the clerk that no one is registered. I'll just give a moment to see if anyone is registered or we didn't catch their registration and would like to speak to this issue. Sounds like no one is registered to speak to this issue. I'll call on Councilmember Ellison.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm happy to forward this item for approval.
On Councilmember Ellison's motion, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Reich,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Osman,
Aye.
Ellison,
Aye.
Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Goodman.
Aye.
There's 6 ayes.
That item is approved. We'll now move on to item number 4, which is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's 2020 Consolidated Action Plan Amendment. I'll note that HUD has raised some questions that CPED is working to resolve. So item 4 is going to be returned to staff. I'm going to ask staff if they'd like to give a quick briefing and then proceed to open the public hearing in case they're speakers, and then close the public hearing and move this back to staff so that they can work with HUD, and it'll return to our committee when that item is ready for committee action. I believe Mr. Port or Ms. Coleman are on the line and might want to make a comment.
Thank you, Chair Goodman and members of the committee. This is Erica Coleman, Senior Project Coordinator of CPED Housing. And so on our HUD Consolidated Plan Action Plan Amendment, it was approved on July 31st by City Council, was the revisions to the Minneapolis Homes Homebuyer Products. And that was to align the products better with the 2040 Comp Plan and the Strategic and Racial Equity Action Plan. The revision recommendations came after much community engagement and adopted CPED department goals. Due to the revisions, we were required to submit an amendment to our HUD Consolidated Plan 5-year action plan that was approved by Council on April 8th for home single-family program funding activities, which is the Homeownership Works, or better known as HOW program. The HOW program is administered under our city's Minneapolis Homes Financing Program umbrella. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and needed urgency for any programming response, HUD has provided grantees the ability to allow a public comment period of 5 days rather than the standard 30 days for the Consolidated Plan amendment and any subsequent amendments needed during the 2020 program year that is ending on May 31st, 2021, through a submission of a program waiver. The program waiver was approved on April 13th of 2020. And therefore, the city's HUD Consolidated Plan Citizen Participation Plan has been updated to reflect the public comment and hearing changes. And so we did provide the public the opportunity to review and comment on the amendment language posted on the city's website from July 31st through August 13th, 2020. We did not receive any comments. The amendment was submitted to HUD, and we have since met with HUD home staff to address points of clarification in the amendment. HUD expressed the need to make sure language was clear and concise as it provides an overview of our program with revisions. So staff is therefore requesting that we open the public hearing today, that we close the public hearing, as well as refer back to staff to address points of clarification as addressed by HUD and come back to council at a later date.
Are there any questions for Ms. Coleman on her report? Great. I'm going to open the public hearing and ask the clerk if there are any speakers on this item.
No speakers registered on item 4.
Thank you very much to the clerk. Given that there are no speakers, I'm going to close the public hearing and I am going to move to refer this back to staff. And I'd ask if the clerk would call the roll.
Councilmember Reich,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Osman,
Aye.
Ellison,
Aye.
Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Goodman.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
That item has been referred back to staff. We'll move on to our last public hearing then, which is a quasi-judicial hearing on our agenda. This item is an appeal submitted by Matt Boyes of Haven Construction regarding the decision of the Heritage Preservation Commission denying a certificate of appropriateness for a building at 2022 2nd Avenue South. I'll first ask the staff to give their presentation, and then I'll open the public hearing. With this type of hearing, we'll give the applicant a chance to speak first. So we'll start with the staff report.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Council members. My name is Sheila Vemmer, and I am a Senior City Planner in the Historic Preservation Department of CPED. Today, I'm presenting an appeal application submitted by Matt Boyes, the appellant and homeowner, of the August 11th, 2020 Heritage Preservation Commission's denial of the replacement of all wood siding with vinyl siding on the home at 2022 2nd Street South in the Washburn Fair Oaks Historic District. Next slide, please. The home was constructed in 1884 and was built by Minneapolis construction company Hagelin and Morse. Next slide, please. This is a map of the location of the property. It's just north of the Minneapolis Institute of Arts, and the grade area is the Washburn Fair Oaks Historic District. Next slide, please. The applicant is proposing to remove all original 3-inch wood lap and shingle siding to include the eaves, fascia, and trim. Next slide, please. And to replace it with 3-inch double lap vinyl siding in a rough wood impression finish or a smooth finish. We received 2 different answers on that. Matching the shingle style vinyl siding to be used with, or matching the original shingle style siding with vinyl shingle style siding. On August 11th, 2020, the Minneapolis HPC heard the Certificate of Appropriateness application for the subject property. Staff recommended denial, and the Commission voted in agreement with staff recommendations. The Heritage Preservation's motion was based on the following findings. The alteration is not compatible with the designation of the historic district, including the period and criteria of significance, and will negatively impact the integrity of this contributing building to the Washburn Fair Oaks Historic District. The alteration is not consistent with the applicable design guidelines adopted by the Commission or with the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, and the alteration is not consistent with the spirit and intent of the Preservation Ordinance and the applicable policies of the Comprehensive Plan to include policies 60, 75, and 93. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm available for any questions.
Are there any questions for staff with regard to her report? Okay, seeing no questions. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Schrader.
Yes, thank you. Just had a question about the wood to vinyl siding. Are there no other products available? I mean, it seems like there's just a very big difference between what's historically been there and the look and feel compared with just going right to vinyl.
There are lots of different options available, but this is what the applicant proposed was vinyl. I'm not saying that all of those other options are approved. The Secretary of the Interior Standards likes to see repair before replacement.
Thank you very much. That's really helpful.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Schrader. I will then go ahead and open the public hearing. With this type of hearing, we give the applicant an opportunity to make their case. Is Matt Boyes or another representative from Haven Builders on the line? I'm pretty sure Matt is on the line. Are you there, Matt?
Yes, I can. Me?
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Great. Yeah, hi, this is Matt Boyes, myself and Caitlin Ferdig are the homeowners. I'd like to just present, and thank you for your time on this, I'd like to present our case for, first of all, the need to replace the siding, I think is a critical point here. Of course, replacing siding is a very expensive thing. You know, it's not a project that you willingly take on unless there's really a requirement in order to do so. Upon reviewing the siding with an inspector and 3 independent general contractors, we can see that there is water getting inside the home directly through the siding. Anytime there's rainfall, you could press your hand upon the siding and water literally gushes out. So we have reports that show that there's water damage underneath most of the windows of the home. There are over 35 windows, and that the siding is just beyond repair and needs a complete it needs to be completely taken off and repaired so that the windows can be properly wrapped, so we can look for mold damage that's occurred over the neglect of the property of the last few decades. So I at first just want to establish that the need to completely replace the siding is absolutely dire and immediate. We're trying to protect the health and safety of the tenants as well as us who are living in the home from further water damage. Second, you know, looking at our options to follow the historic guidelines. First, you know, the 1976 historic district guidelines there is no requirement to replace the original material with exactly the same type of material. The guidelines make that clear in a few places. It even mentions, quote, if the original material is clapboard, restoration to this material is encouraged but not demanded. I think the intent here, the primary intent that it's evident throughout the guidelines, is to match the direction, dimension, and texture of the original material. One reason we are not able to replace exactly like for like, which is not even a requirement, is the exceeding cost of the project, which would be over $90,000. The home value is $415,000. So that type of economic equation just doesn't make sense. It's just impossible for us to achieve that. So in looking at alternatives, most of the general contractors are recommending that this material type, which is much more advanced from what people originally think of as vinyl, it's a textured material. There are textured vinyl shakes. It's a very great product and has been an advancement, especially since the guidelines of 1976. It's just a construction material that provides, an affordability. The project will still be around $35,000 to do completely. And those are kind of the two main issues, is that there's an immediate need to repair all of the siding, and that the financial cost of replacing it exactly like for like well exceeds the overall value of the home. There's a couple places I'd like to call out, just specifically within the guidelines. Just again to kind of make a case of why we believe strongly that we are following the guidelines. And it's essentially just that it should match the direction, dimensions, texture of the covering on a per square foot level of the entire home. We will be matching all dimensions, textures, and direction of the siding. So where there's 3-inch lap, there's going to be a 3-inch lap textured material. For the shakes, we're going to be replacing the shakes with a textured material. So by all purposes, we feel strongly that we're meeting all the guidelines as they're written, and it's kind of one of the only options that is available to us. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We'll see if there's anyone else who is on the call today who would like to speak with regard to this issue. Any additional speakers in queue?
No other speakers on item 5 have registered.
Okay. So given that there are no other speakers who have registered, I'll see if there are any questions or comments and close the public hearing on item number 5. Are there any questions or comments for staff or comments from anyone on the committee? Okay, seeing none, I am unfortunately just simply not convinced that this is the only option. The Heritage Preservation Commission voted unanimously not to allow this, as was the staff recommendation. So there must be something that would be in between wooden shake and vinyl siding. One of the things that stood out to me in the report was that houses that had been redone with vinyl siding were then non-contributing structures to the historic district based on the Secretary of Interior standards. And that is perhaps not the direction that we'd like to go. For those reasons, I am going to move to deny the appeal and ask the staff to supplement the findings of fact with my comments and see if anyone on the committee would like to speak to this issue as well. Anyone? Councilmember Schrader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to second everything you said. I think it is something the Historic Preservation Commission is really the experts here, and we really did not hear anything that would justify this change in materials. So I appreciate bringing up all those points, and I will be voting to support your motion.
So I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll, and I would just note that perhaps the applicant could meet directly with preservation staff to identify what some alternatives could possibly be so that they could put an investment into redoing this property, perhaps with something that is less expensive, but definitely not the vinyl siding that would remove the Secretary of Interior's standards so that this building would not be taken out of the district as a contributing structure. On the motion to deny the appeal, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Reich,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Osman,
Aye.
Ellison,
Aye.
Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Goodman.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
That item the appeal does not pass. We'll then move to our last item, which is a discussion item. This is a quarterly report of the Stable Homes, Stable Schools initiative. And I believe Ms. Topinka is on the line to give that report, and I will defer to her.
Hi, yes, thank you, Chair Goodman and committee members. This is our quarterly report for the Stable Homes, Stable Schools program. Thanks for pulling up the PowerPoint to the clerk. Just as a quick reminder, this is a program that's a partnership among all of the entities listed here on the slide, including the city, Minneapolis Public Housing Authority, Minneapolis Public Schools, the YMCA, Hennepin County, and the Polad Family Foundation. And the program has been in effect since April 1st of last year of 2019, and we have been bringing quarterly reports to the council since the program went into effect at the direction of the council. And this is partly because this was a new program and wanting to give regular updates on its progress. And so the program is a combination of rental assistance and supportive services to families who are at risk of or who are experiencing homelessness and whose children attend one of 15 Minneapolis public elementary schools. And then the Polad Family Foundation funds housing stability portion of the program, which provides one-time assistance to families who are at risk of homelessness. And so we are going to provide an update today on just the progress of those two pieces of the program. And then Charlotte Kinsley from Minneapolis Public Schools is on the line, and she's going to give a brief update as well about the progress through the end of the school year of the students who are participating in the program. So with that, we can go to the next slide, please. This is a report through the second quarter of 2020. So again, the program really started April 1st of 2019. And so this is, I guess, slightly past the end of the second quarter, which ended on June 30th. But as of July 10th, there are a total of just over 1,400 children who have been served by the different components of this program. So you can see in the blue piece of the pie, there's 230 children in families who have been housed with rental assistance, and the rental assistance is funded by a combination of city and MPHA funds. Then there are 619 children in families who have received one-time assistance through the Housing Stability Fund, which is the fund designed to prevent homelessness that's funded by the Polad Family Foundation. And then, as you'll recall, at the beginning of the COVID emergency, the city did redirect $1 million in funding from Stable Homes, Stable Schools to fund one-time emergency response assistance. So that's very similar to that eviction prevention or homelessness prevention funding that Polad provides for the regular part of the program. There were city funds available in the COVID-19 emergency response, and so 553 children have received one-time assistance. Their children and families have received one-time assistance through those emergency dollars. Those dollars are have a large number of them have been committed to families. Some are still going out the door. However, the application period is no longer open. It was only open for a brief window of time. Next slide, please. And so this is just a reflection of the number of families. So the last slide was the children. These are the families that have those children in them. And again, it's 66 families are housed and receiving rental assistance. And then 235 families have received homelessness prevention funds. And this 188 families for the COVID emergency response, that represents, as of July, that number has increased since then and will be reflected in our next report. Next slide, please. And then we always report on the demographics of families. These are the demographics of eligible families. So these are families that are either housed, have received assistance through the Housing Stability Fund, or have been referred to the program by the schools and have been designated as eligible, but may not yet be in housing. So the left side of this slide shows the demographics of families in the rental assistance side of the program, and then the other circle on the right side shows the demographics of families in the Housing Stability Fund. Next slide, please. And this slide just shows the families that have been assisted in the different schools. So these are the schools that were identified as being the schools for the program based on the rates of homelessness in those schools. And then you can just see the blue line represents the families assisted through the Housing Stability Fund. So that's the homelessness prevention. And then the pink line is the families housed through the rental assistance side of the program. Next slide, please. And so this is the last slide I'll present before turning it over to Charlotte from MPS. And this is just the funding update. So as of June 30th, we have spent $1.7 million for this program. That's $1.3 million for the rental assistance side, and that is made up, so the city and MPHA jointly fund the rental assistance itself, and then the city funds the wraparound services that are provided by the YMCA for the rental assistance side of the program. The Housing Stability Fund is funded by the POLAD Family Foundation, that should say COVID-19 Emergency Assistance Program. That was the funding committed as of the end of the second quarter. Again, that number has increased quite a bit since the end of the second quarter. And then just a couple of announcements. We did receive a $25,000 donation for the Housing Stability Fund side of the program. So that's the part funded by POLAD. So the donation went to MPHA from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And then Hennepin County applied on behalf of the Stable Home, Stable Schools program to the state for its Homework Starts with Home program. And we were happy to receive an award of $800,000 from the state, and that will allow us to continue direct assistance for the Housing Stability Fund, expand the number of schools for that fund, and then provide some additional staffing support for MPS and MPHA. And so those are the updates on that side. And then I can pause here to see if there are questions before I turn it over to Charlotte Kinsley with MPHA.
I'll just see at this point if there are any questions for Stupinka. Seeing none, we'll move on to the report by Ms. Kinsley.
Hi, this is Charlotte Kinsley with Minneapolis Public Schools. Thank you, Katie, and thank you, Chair Goodman and committee members. If you can see the MPS evaluation slide here shows our academic, sort of the outcomes that we're tracking through the rental assistance part of this initiative. And today I'm just going to spend a few minutes sharing with you part of our report on the first school year of this initiative and the academic results that we've seen thus far. Today, I'm just going to be sharing our attendance and school stability outcomes, but this slide shows you the full list of outcomes that we hope to achieve through this program. So it's our hope that this initial data can help us establish a baseline for next year when we have a larger data set of students who have been housed for a full school year in order to measure progress. You can move to the next slide. So this slide here shows our school stability enrollment. And so the first column, the dark blue, is the percent of students that were in the same school from October 1st to the end of the year. The lighter blue column is students that remained enrolled in Minneapolis Public Schools throughout the duration of the year. And so this first group is the group of families in rental assistance that were receiving that ongoing support. The second group is our homeless and highly mobile students. And then the third group is our district overall. And so I'll just point out that not only did families in the rental assistance part of the initiative achieve much higher rates of stability than our homeless and highly mobile students, but also were even higher than the district average. Next slide. So our attendance, this shows our attendance split up through the year, with the dark blue being our district average, the middle column, the lighter blue, being our homeless and highly mobile students, and then the third column being families enrolled in rental assistance. And I would just draw your attention to maybe just starting out Q4. You can see on Q4, this last group of columns here, just a really wide difference in attendance and engagement. And this is during distance learning. So we had quite a gap of students that did not have devices and internet. And so that gap was much wider, both for our HHM students and those in rental assistance. So if I bring your attention back to the full year, you can see that attendance for our homeless and highly mobile students was at 84%. Students that were enrolled in the rental assistance attended at 86%, which might not seem like a big difference, but actually when you think about that we're prioritizing students for enrollment in this program based off of their not attending regularly, that gap is actually statistically significant. Next slide. This slide is showing the housing stability or school enrollment for families that were receiving the homeless prevention support. And so the only thing I would just point out here is that it was slightly lower rates of stability in comparison with those in rental assistance, which is what we'd expect with the deeper engagement of rental assistance, but also still much better than those within our homeless and highly mobile group. Next slide. So in terms of our key learnings, we're really excited about both the stability and the attendance outcomes, but of course we still have progress to make in this area. All of these take time, support, and collaboration, and we're really looking forward to the point when we have a higher number of students in stable housing for a full school year, so we can really do a deeper analysis of the data. Next slide. So not this year, but next year, 21-22, some of our families will have a change to their school zone. And so what we are doing is really working hard to make sure that we're supporting our families through that transition. And these are just a few of the strategies that we're using. The only change that we're going to see to the list of eligible schools is the removal of Anderson. That's no longer going to be an elementary school. And we have added, as Katie mentioned, Falwell, Whittier, and Webster through the Homework Starts with Home grant. We are also adding them to the rental assistance part of the initiative as well. And then my last slide here, I just wanted to say a couple things about distance learning. As you saw in that, the engagement statistic, really our families experiencing homelessness are disproportionately impacted by the challenges of distance learning. And so it really makes this support and structure all the more important. We are really excited about the restructuring that we did with being able to hire an MPS staff person to help coordinate this program, and really looking forward to seeing how that impacts our ability to meet education outcomes. Other programs, initiatives similar to this really found that the more the housing and the school collaborated and partnered, the better the outcomes were for families. And then just a note about, we had one of our parent advisory committee members join the steering committee. Desiree has been really critical to the shaping of the program, and we're excited to have her as part of the steering committee and guiding the initiative moving forward. So I will pause here for questions. Thank you for your time.
Are there any questions for Ms. Kinsley or Ms. Topinka? Comments from members of the committee? I'll note that this is a discussion item which has a receive and file action attached to it, so I'll call on Councilmember Schrader.
Thank you, Chair Goodman. First and foremost, I just want to thank all the staff involved. This has been a really great partnership between the city and multiple partners, and the results really speaks for themselves. So it's, I think in other times we would go on a lot longer about just kind of the values of how well this is doing. But I just appreciate the concise report from staff, and I'd like to move this item for approval.
This item has been moved to receive and file by Councilmember Schrader. Are there further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Reich.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Osman.
Aye.
Ellison.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Chair Goodman.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
That motion has been approved. Seeing no further business before us and without objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you all for participating.